Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Metal Roots. Tonight, I am glad to have with me John Yelland from the band Judicator, which a lot of you will know him from, plus some other projects, which we'll talk about later, but mainly Judicator is probably what most folks are going to know you from. So, John, thanks for joining me tonight. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Wade, very happy to be here with you tonight. I look forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, this will be fun. I want to give a shout out to a mutual friend of ours, Craig Wisnom, who helped kind of set this up. And Craig and I actually saw you play live at Mad with Power Fest probably 3 or 4 years ago. It was the first time I saw you guys. So yeah, Craig and I made the trek up there together to attend that one. So nice to be talking to you again.
Yeah, good to see you again. Craig, I have nothing but the highest of things to say about him. I've known him for a long time, and he's a really genuinely great guy.
He is. He's an awesome guy. I tell you, I just got a package in the mail from him this week. He sent me like a picture, of the receipt from the post office with the tracking number and said, "Hey, watch out for this coming in the mail." I got home the other night and he'd mailed me like 10 CDs. I'm like, dude. So, yes, he's very much a guy who loves metal and wants to share it with the masses. And so he's got so many contacts. So I appreciate him setting this up for us and getting us connected. So,
yeah, same.
So, Craig, thanks, buddy. So we'll just jump right in here, John. So just tell me a little bit about your childhood. Where'd you grow up? What was life like for John as a kid? Were you into like sports or anything else? Or
I have kind of an interesting life, I guess. I live in Utah. I grew up in Utah. I have family in Nevada, so Nevada's very close to my heart. But Utah is entrenched with saturated with Mormon culture.
Yeah.
I myself grew up Mormon, and that lasted until about like 17 years old or something. And then I went on a very tumultuous spiritual or not spiritual journey, ended up where I am now, which is terrific. But so all that being said, spirituality, existentialism, the big questions have always been something that have either for better or worse, propelled my life and informed my life. I grew up basically an only child. I have 2 half brothers, the eldest of which died of cancer when I was about 18 years old. And that was a harrowing, terrible, weird experience. And actually, our 3rd album, At the Expense of Humanity, is all about that experience.
Right.
So yeah, I have 2 half brothers, one of whom is still alive. As a child, I suppose I was more artistically inclined than athletically inclined. I did play basketball and whatnot, but really from an early age, I was in piano lessons, then singing lessons. Then I fell in love with the Beatles, and so I took guitar lessons, and eventually things segued into metal music when CD burning became a thing. Yeah. And one of my friends burned off a mix CD with all kinds of like Ozzy and Metallica and other like the Offspring, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of a very brief survey of my childhood, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you kind of touched on this because I was going to say, kind of what are your earliest memories of music, or when did you first get into music? So would it be about the time, like you say, when the CD burning was happening, or a little prior to that with the Beatles and things?
Yeah, I think, I don't know how old I must have been, but I was a kid anyways. Yeah. And yeah, when CD burning became a thing, like in the days of Napster and home computers, I feel like started to become a thing. My friend Corby had the ability and wherewithal to download music illegally and burn CDs. And yeah, that's when I got into I got his metal music CD, and that was fine. But I really fell in love with the Beatles. That's what I really latched onto. And from then I was probably in grade school until I was about 16. Mm-hmm. I was just very much into classic rock. And it wasn't until I was 16 years old. I do remember that age. At 16 years old, my childhood friend Mark brought over the Iron Maiden DVD Rock in Rio.
Oh yeah.
And we just sat and hung out in my room and watched that. And that was unlike anything I had seen before. Epic, big lights, big production, big personality, epic songs, epic performances, huge audience. That's really what got metal to sink its hooks in me, so to
That's
speak.
awesome. Yeah, it's funny. I have a little bit of a similar story. I was more of the tape trading era because I'm older than you, but just a little older, I'm sure. But but yeah, I was in the tape trading thing. In fact, Craig and I, when we first kind of met and everything, we were sending each other tapes. So he was, telling me about all these bands I hadn't heard of, like Cauldron Born and this kind of underground stuff, because this was sort of the dark ages when metal was kind of not in vogue anymore in the early 90s and mid 90s. So then, yeah, Craig was sending me all these bands and I did tape trading. But then I got into like CD trading with people all over the world. I had like a little Rolodex of names of all these people I had traded with in foreign countries and things. But yeah, it's kind of like you hear about these bands you never heard of, and it's like, oh, metal is still out there. It's still alive.
I'm kind of interested to see where things go, because I've seen, of course, we've all seen vinyl make a big comeback.
Yeah.
Tapes. I love tapes. I think
Yeah.
they're just neat. And it's really fun to get like a tape player and plug in your old school headphones and stuff. So I'm not sure that tape will have a resurgence like vinyl, but it's interesting that like with 8-track, that never made a comeback. And CDs are still really useful, but like they're not. I don't know if CDs will ever have the like the
Sure.
buzz about it like vinyl seems to have now.
Yeah. Well, the thing that's cool about vinyl, I really haven't got into buying it again because I grew up on it. But once I made the switch to CDs, I just kind of stayed there. But what I appreciated about vinyl was the album art, because obviously it was bigger, right? You got a 1 foot square. It's not this 6-inch thing or whatever. So bigger artwork. A lot of times there was really cool packaging inside, like the sleeve for the record might have been two-sided with band pictures on one side, lyrics on the other. Sometimes there were posters in there, so packaging on vinyl was cool. Especially there's nothing cooler than like a gatefold double live album or something, when you open it up, like Live After Death by Iron Maiden. You open that thing up and there's the giant Eddie mummy above, Nico's riser and the flames going up and this Sphinx and everything. That was, awesome album. So there is that part of vinyl I appreciate, but for the ease of listening to it and taking it in the car, I still prefer CDs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we could speculate about that a lot. I think a tape is fun. It's like fun. It feels like a novelty. I like it. Vinyl feels like an experience. You need to sit down with it, sit with it for like the duration. It's much more of an experience. CD is something you put in your car, or in your stereo. And I feel like with digital and streaming and everything, it's tight competition, because nothing is more convenient than just putting Spotify on your phone.
Well, that's the thing I do miss, because you just nailed it on the head. When I was a kid, I remember distinctly going and buying Screaming for Vengeance by Judas Priest, going home, sitting in my beanbag chair, this was like 1982 or whatever. I'm like a freshman in high school. Go back to my house, sit in my beanbag chair, got the big speakers, the real stereo, and cranking up Screaming for Vengeance and listening to it, all the way to the end. Gets done, you flip it over, listen to it again, and reading along with the liner notes. And now it's probably a combination of time and age and convenience. I get a new CD, but I don't have that time to just sit in front of the big stereo and listen to it. The way I'm listening to 90% of my stuff anymore is earbuds or the car. So, or when I'm at work, with earbuds in or something like that. But yeah, I miss that experience of cranking it up through big stereo speakers and sitting there and just absorbing it.
Yeah, we've had a few fun little experiences like that, my wife and I, and even our son too. And I feel like I really remember those experiences, like sitting down with my family and just relaxing and listening to Dio. I don't know. Those are great memories.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned your wife. So does she share your affinity for heavy metal music, or?
She likes it.
Yeah.
It's not something that she's like really into. There are songs that she really likes, but by and large, it's my thing.
Yeah. That's the same here. Yeah, my wife's awesomely supportive, and she likes a lot of the 80s, hair metal, if you want to call it that or whatever. Your Rats and your Poisons and that stuff. But yeah, when I start playing the heavier stuff, she's not so much into that, or the more power metal stuff. But she's gone to tons of shows with me, and she supports it. So
Yeah. Well, and I reciprocate and try to be enthusiastic, and kind of am. I mean, I've kind of developed a love for a lot of pop music and pop rock and 80s pop and stuff. So yeah, there's more out there than metal, I guess.
Yeah. Just a little bit though.
Un poquito.
So you mentioned some of your early favorites with the Beatles and things, but like when you started to get into metal, so what band besides Iron Maiden, what kind of spoke to you in the metal realm, made you think, ooh, this music's kind of cool, I should dive deeper into this? Any specific artists that stood out to you?
Well, so I started out really heavy into the Beatles and CCR. And I feel like I had an obsessive personality. And so I moved from like the Beatles and CCR into being obsessive about Iron Maiden.
Okay.
In fact, in high school, I had over 30 Iron Maiden shirts, and I made it a goal of mine to wear a different Iron Maiden shirt every day of the month. And there was a point where people called me the Iron Maiden kid
That's awesome.
in high school. Anyway, so that being said, eventually I exhausted. You can only listen to the same albums and music and singers and musicians before you get tired. So I was a member of the Iron Maiden forum, the website forum.
Okay.
And I was like, guys, I don't mean to commit like sacrilege here, but what other metal bands are there that you like or are interested in? And so from there, I got turned on to bands like Tyr and Halloween and Gamma Ray. Those were the first bands that I really branched off and started exploring what else is out there.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. I was kind of the same way. It was, I'm like say a little older than you. So I grew up when Kiss was ruling the world in like 1977, 78 is when I was like 10, 11 years old. So huge Kiss nerd. That's all I listened to until I think I discovered Iron Maiden. It was 1980 and I heard Iron Maiden and went, whoa, this is different. Yeah. And then it was down the bunny hole. It's like, okay, now I'm checking out Judas Priest and I'm checking out, Saxon and just British metal in general, and then just discovering all kinds of stuff. So yeah. Like you say, there's only so long you can listen to that one band, and you got to expand your horizons a little bit.
Yeah, and in fact, now I generally consider Blind Guardian to be my favorite band.
Yeah.
But I intentionally do not listen to them so much because I do not want to get tired of them. So I try to really space out how much I listen to Blind Guardian and other bands that I really care about. I want to try to maintain as much of that magic as possible.
Sure. Well, it's like you mentioned classic rock, and that's something I appreciated back in high school, but I was pretty much metal and metal only, but I appreciated like Journey and Foreigner and Styx, but it wasn't something I usually listened to. But now as I've gotten older, I've really come to appreciate those bands and their talent and their vocals. But I'll be honest, if I hear, Don't Stop Believing One More Time, it's had this resurgence in the last few years, and it's everywhere. It's at every wedding reception. It's at every bar you go to. It's at every restaurant. And so, it's like, it kind of got burned out on that song.
Yeah, I totally get it. It's a 10 out of 10 song. It's an amazing song, rightfully so. But geez Louise, I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I know here in the Midwest too, I don't know how it is in Utah, but classic rock still rules here in the Midwest. I mean, we've got like 3 classic rock stations in town. So you can flip to any station any time of day, and that's all you're going to hear is Kansas and Styx and Foreigner and Journey and Boston. It's all great stuff, but I'm the kind of guy that I love that stuff, but there's been 30, 40 more years of great music that's come out too that I'm trying to absorb. So
yeah, I've said it many times before. I never want to be that guy that I think everybody has encountered at one metal show or another who says, they just don't release any good music anymore. The only good stuff is from the 80s and early 90s or whatever. So I always try to make it a point to go exploring on Bandcamp or one of my friends posting about. There's got to be, or like, for example, Judicator is playing Loud as Hell Festival this August. And I realized I only know one other band on the entire bill. It's Judicator and Lycanthro, and a whole bunch of other bands I have never heard of or seen before.
Sure.
But I see people in the comments like, oh, you've never heard of Revocation? They're so cool. And so for me, I'm like, okay, great. This is some homework. I get to go study and learn a whole bunch of new bands, and maybe 4 or 5 will stick, and I'll come out with some new bands that I love,
Yeah. Well, that's what's great about even like Man with Power, when Ty put that on the first few times, or Prog Power. I've always gone to those fests and come away with like, wow, some band that blew me away that I really wasn't familiar with. maybe I'd heard their name, but didn't know their music. So yeah, it's like you always go to those fests and discover some new kind of little gem, and then you go down the rabbit hole of, oh, they've got 5 albums out now. I got all the stuff to check out. So
Yeah. And I love that when you discover a band that's new to you and they have a deep discography,
Yeah.
and you feel like you get that feeling that you got when you first got into Iron Maiden or Blind Guardian. It's like, where do you start? And you
Yeah.
get to have your own little adventure discovering and learning this new band. It's it's like Christmas morning when you're a kid. You can never go back and recapture it. You can never
Yeah.
listen to Blind Guardian for the first time or Iron Maiden. So it's always nice when you find another band where you get to have that kind of experience again.
Yeah. So kind of when did the bug bite you to start actually singing and kind of pursuing music? So you were a fan, you were digging music, but when did you decide maybe I can do something with this, or maybe I want to be a singer? How did that come about?
Well, so like I said, I was really into the Beatles, and so I started out with piano lessons, kind
Okay.
of obligatory. You need to take one sport and one musical instrument, and I didn't care. We already had a piano, so my
Yeah.
parents like, you're going to learn piano. So I learned piano because my mom. It was easy for my mom, I guess. But when I heard the Beatles and I fell in love with the Beatles, then I was like, I want a guitar. And so my dad actually had a guitar. And anyway, I learned guitar. And then when I discovered Iron Maiden, I went from just playing Beatles songs to myself and learning the
Mhm.
tablature and singing to myself and imagining like, ooh, I could be on stage or whatever. Or sometimes my parents would pressure me into performing very awkwardly and poorly at a family reunion or something. But when I saw Bruce Dickinson on stage, I was like, okay, so this doesn't have to be like, so clean, and like it can be, it totally opened my horizon. And that's when I knew I wanted to be a singer.
Okay.
And I wanted to be on stage having fun, kicking ass and all that kind of thing. So yeah, from that point forward, that's when I became much more serious about learning how to sing, improving my range, my
Mhm.
timbre and all that kind of thing. So I started taking vocal lessons then.
Okay.
And
About what age was that when this was going on?
I first took vocal lessons when I was an early teenager.
Okay.
I took vocal lessons probably from when I was like maybe 13 to 17, and then again from when I was like 19 or 20 until I was 23 or 24.
Okay.
So I'm classically trained.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about the vocal lessons and the musical bug kind of biting you and wanting to take this in a more serious direction. So when did you kind of get into your first band? Was it like some high school buddies, or was it college, or how did your first band come about, and what kind of band was it?
This is fun. I haven't had an interview like this before. This is fun because I get to go back through so many fun, weird memories. The first actual band that I was in was in high school. I think it was my sophomore year. We were in a cover band called Rack and Hide, which I was told was an authentic German word, and apparently it absolutely was not.
Okay.
Somebody I think just made up Rack and Hide. Okay, but we did a cover of like Smells Like Teen Spirit, Enter Sandman, The Trooper, the Power Rangers theme song. Like, it was just a real mishmash of songs. But we did our first performance at a dump of a venue that's on the weird part of town in Salt Lake, next to like an Ethiopian market. It's a very weird part of town. Not to say Ethiopians are weird or anything, but just the whole, like, a venue
Yeah.
right next to an Ethiopian market. You've got a whole, like, these people shouldn't be here, and with these people, like, it's a really big clash of cultures or whatever. But we performed for the first time, and in hindsight, oh yeah, we were performing for all of our friends and schoolmates, people who knew us. But in our heads, we performed for a group of people that were having just a blast, and it was an amazing show, and like it was a really good show. And so that really pumped up our egos. And so we were like, we got to perform more. And then we quickly learned that we were actually not that good. And we were actually not that popular. So it took about two other times performing kind of bad shows to kind of humble us and realize we actually need to work at this and be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I could talk for like 15 or 30 minutes on this, but suffice it to say, long story short, there was band drama, like Rack and Hide split apart, and I was in one side, and these other guys were in another side, and then, yeah, the whole bunch of high school drama that ended up, long story short, with me joining a band called Dysphoria,
Okay.
which I think was the first band where I was with musicians who took themselves seriously and were trying to reach something bigger than themselves. And so, you hear the saying, it's something like surround yourself with people who are better than you.
Hmm.
That's where I started to really see the value of doing that. Because these are people who are really aspiring to be like Dream Theater meets Rush meets like Megadeth.
Okay.
And so yeah, that experience of joining Dysphoria kind of whipped me into shape, and I think it was really good for me. You need a good ass kicking sometimes. It's helpful, it's healthy.
Yeah. So about what time then did Judicator start to form? How much longer after that, I guess?
So Dysphoria was like 2010, I think, or maybe it was 2008. We released a couple of EPs, and 2010, I went down to see Blind Guardian at Tempe, Arizona.
Mhm.
And that's where I met Alicia Cordisco. This has been everywhere
Yeah.
for every interview. Anybody who's watched a Judicator interview knows the story by now. But yeah, I went to the venue super early. I was there at like 2 or 3 p.m. because I had nothing better to do. I went all the way to Tempe, Arizona. May as well hang out. Maybe I'll meet a band member or something.
Yeah.
Well, Alicia Cordisco, she was in good with Seven Kingdoms, who was touring with Blind
Mhm.
Guardian at the time. And we hit it off and whatnot, and Seven Kingdoms arrived, so she went to go hang out with her friends, and
Yeah.
I guess I was going to be left there alone. So she took pity on me and was like, "Do you want to come backstage and hang out with us?" Do I?
Yeah.
So we hung out with Seven Kingdoms. We watched Blind Guardian sound check, and every once in a while, a crew member would walk by and kind of like look in at us. And it only took about 2 or 3 times of that happening for somebody in the crew to be like, "Do you have backstage passes?" No. I need to ask you to leave. Okay. It was nice while it lasted,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
we exchanged information, and some months later or whatever, Alicia reached out and said, "Oh, I've been sitting on this album that I wrote. Would you want to sing on it?" Because I was in Dysphoria, and that
Mhm.
was my baby at the time. And I, of course, agreed because this was a style of metal that I wanted to get into. And that was King of Rome, our first album, and it was surprisingly well received. So we decided, let's do another one. And so we did another one, and that was Sleepy Plesso. And that was even better received. And
Yeah.
so we thought, this is probably the time to take this from a project to an actual band. And so we upped our game in terms of production value and musicianship, I would say, personnel involved and that kind of thing. And I think At the Expense of Humanity is kind of where we turned a new leaf and became more legit or something.
Yeah. Now, when it came to sort of financing the projects, because at that point you're still kind of an underground band, was it something that you guys just kind of did on your own with the recording? Did you actually go to a studio? Did you record at home? How did you kind of go about getting the albums out, I guess, and getting distribution and that?
Yeah. So to start out, with Sleepy Plesso and King of Rome, those albums were produced on like a shoestring budget. I mean, like Alicia recorded her guitars herself. I think she recorded or programmed the bass. The drums were programmed. I recorded the vocals. The only thing we really paid for with both of those albums, I think, were producing CDs, and that was Alicia.
Okay.
Alicia fronted all of those costs, for which I was and remain grateful. But when we decided to up our game with At the Expense of Humanity, like I mentioned, that was a bit much to ask one person to foot the bill. So we ended up doing a Kickstarter or Indiegogo,
Hmm.
and we raised like $4,000 or something.
Okay.
And that was enough to get the album done. And then from that point forward, we returned to Alicia footing the bill for everything up until Let There Be Nothing, which is when we got
Really? Wow.
signed.
Okay.
And when we got signed, of course, that comes money from the label, which helps, but it doesn't cover everything, but it helps. Yeah, so it's always been kind of a pendulum back and forth between self-funded and getting help and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Now, have you guys, I know you obviously play out and you've toured a little bit, but have you done any extensive tours where you go out for like 2, 3 weeks, or is it more like one-offs here and there, fly to a festival, come home, that kind of thing?
Yeah, Judicator has never been like a big touring band. We did one DIY tour in 2016 where we went like up the coast of California and into Oregon. I think I can't remember. It was maybe a week and a half tour.
Okay.
But I mean that's a whole can of worms, like touring. But
Yeah.
I will say right now, we are much more focused on playing festivals and doing short runs, that kind of thing. Just because, I mean, for like me personally, I'm at a point in life where I mentioned I have 2 kids, a wife, a 9 to 5, basically.
Yeah.
I need, I have priorities that supersede the band, rightfully so. And so I'm very much at a place in life where I need music to work for me rather than the other way around.
Sure.
And so to that end, I'm perfectly happy if I can produce music that I love at no cost to me, which is great. I'm very relieved because with Let There Be Nothing and The Majesty of Decay, we were on Prosthetic Records. Then we concluded our contract, and the question was, do we pursue another record deal or do we try to go self-funded? This time around, we wanted to try self-funded, and I was very relieved that we had a very successful Kickstarter campaign. We asked for $7,100, I think, $7,100, which was like very meticulously decided upon because we wanted to ask for only the bare minimum of what we needed. But we ended up raising close to 10,000, which still didn't cover everything.
Right.
Papa John still had to dig into his personal pockets to get to the finish line. But all of that, I think, is being validated because we have a metric assload of pre-orders. We're already almost sold out of CDs. So financially, this is our best album yet. We'll see how well doing PR ourselves and managing all of that works out.
Yeah.
Because The Majesty of Decay was our most widely reviewed and most critically acclaimed album. And I'm not sure that our new album, Concord, is going to get as wide coverage as our last album. But financially speaking, it's a rousing success. So I don't know, choose your metric, but that's a very long answer. But yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
No, those are all the things that, I kind of nerd out over, is wanting to know those things, because I think a lot of people don't get maybe all the behind the scenes stuff that has to go on and what it takes to get an album out there and how much the bands in this day and age have to kick in. It's really, like you say, if you're in a metal band and unless you're Metallica or Iron Maiden or something like that, it's pretty much a DIY thing. The days of being able to just drop with everything and go tour, that's not happening for most metal bands. It's a labor of love, I think.
Yeah, and that's kind of a paradigm shift that started to happen in my mid-20s, I would say. Throughout my late teens and early to mid-20s, I was very much of that shut up and get in the bus attitude. Like, let's go out and do it. Like, just do it, grind, do it. We got to do this to make it. And it wasn't really happening. We had good things like working with Hansi Kirsch on 2 occasions.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
We did tour once, like a week and a half tour. I toured 2 weeks with Dire Apparel on an occasion, another band that I was in, and some other like week to 2 week tours. But I tell you, there was a point in my, like when I was like 25, 26, where I was like, okay, I've been doing this now for like 6 years, really working hard. I feel like I'm going to start missing opportunities if I don't start really evaluating where I'm at in life.
Yeah.
And so reevaluating where I was at in life led to the decision, if I'm going to get married, I would rather do it now than like later, because I do, if I'm being honest, want to have a family. And so I started changing the dating pool. I started changing the women that I was going after. And I found a very lovely, smart, talented, incredible woman that I just fell in love with and married, and it was all great. And then so your priorities change, and then you have kids and your priorities change even more. So now I'm very much at a point in life where I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too. But I also tell you, because there are in filmmaking, like script writing, it's called a parallel character. So it's like 2 people who are on similar journeys, but something different happens to each of them, and they go on separate kind of journeys. And so I have in my head like parallel characters. So like I went one way, and I know a bunch of other people who kept going that way that I was going. And not naming names or band names or anything, but I see certain bands now who either they do a DIY tour, or they hop on a bill with another tour, and they go from city to city performing for 30, maybe 50 people. And I've done enough touring to know it is hard. It is expensive. You have to do absolute profane gymnastics to have a life to come back to when you get back from tour.
Sure.
It's a total restructuring of your life. And so I look at some bands now doing tours, and I'm like, is that worth it? Is it really worth it to work your ass off to go perform for 20, 30, 40 people per night, and still be completely in debt, like completely lose your ass on the experience? And so that's why, again, I said, I'm happy if I perform 3 or 4 times a year. We'll just make those times that we do perform all the more special. And, I'm very much looking for something that I can do until the day I die.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to burn myself out. I'm 34 now. I'm going to be doing this when I'm 44, 54, 64, 74, 84, something. So, yeah. That was a big old rant too.
No, I think what you said reminded me as you were talking if you've seen the documentary, The Story of Anvil.
Yes.
The Canadian band. Yeah, and that was kind of a depressing documentary, because here's these guys, at least with Lips and Rob Reiner, the drummer, they've been together since the beginning. They're friends, and they formed that band. They've been together since the beginning. But in that documentary, when they go on that tour in Europe, where metal's more popular, right? You think they're going to be playing to bigger crowds, but they're going to these little bars in Holland and playing to 20 people, and then the bar owner stiffing them and doesn't want to pay them at the end of the night. And I'm like, how do you do that and survive?
Yeah.
And come back home and go to your day job, but it's like you're taking off time and losing pay and all that to go play for 30 people and make nothing, and hoping you make it up in merch sales, but there's only so much merch you can sell, Yeah.
You won't make it up in merch sales.
Yeah.
But like some bands do it, like Unleash the Archers. They've done terrific.
Mhm.
Seven Kingdoms, they work their asses off,
Yeah.
and they have found a way, and they're making it work. Lords of the Trident, they found their niche, and I
Right.
think they're really making it work. So, I'm not throwing a pity party. I'm just saying that, I'm happy with where my priorities are,
Mhm.
and this isn't, what do they say, like a zero sum game, or whatever. Like, just because someone else is doing better doesn't mean that you're doing worse.
Yeah.
I'm just focusing on family first, and then I want to do music wherever and however I can.
Yeah.
And so I'm under no illusions that, Judicator is going to be the next Iron Maiden or something. I'm just happy to be a part of whatever festival we can get onto, or whatever show we can get onto. Not to get too out in the weeds or whatever, but like, case in point, Epic Fest, we're going to do our first European festival in like 2.5 weeks. But this kind of coincides with my son's birthday.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I am not, my son only turns 4 once.
Yeah.
That's it. I am not going to miss my son's birthday. So I planned my trip like, I'm coming home. Like, I'm not going to
Yeah.
miss my son's birthday. Yeah, like, because I don't know, like, if you don't have kids, maybe you can't understand, but like, it's so special, and you only have your kid, like, they grow up so fast.
Mhm.
Like, it's so precious. Like, I'm not missing his 4th birthday. We're gonna
Yeah.
have my kid's getting into Pokemon, and so we're having a Pokemon themed birthday party. It's gonna be a blast. It's gonna be a hoot.
Yeah.
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
So I think you kind of alluded to this early on, just about, with some of the things you've gone through in life, like your lyrics and your content, you're kind of a big thinker, right? Existentialism and things like that. And, is there life after death, whatever. But yeah, what's kind of your inspiration lyrically or musically? Where do kind of your ideas, or what's your thought process for coming up with things?
Uh, I think it probably starts with whatever hook there is that I can identify with personally. Um, I think probably our most superficial album, which feels sacrilegious to say for me, because like, they're all very personal to me. But I would say is King of Rome, and I say that because the genesis of that album,
Mhm.
lyrically, was the 1970 movie Waterloo,
Okay.
and that was just such a cool movie. I don't think I had ever seen up to that point a movie that used thousands upon thousands of fully uniformed soldiers in formation, like the ultimate history boner that you could ever get.
Yeah.
It's an amazing movie. If you or whoever's listening to this have not seen Waterloo,
I have not.
with, I think the person who plays him is Rod Steiger, and Christopher Plumer. I think he's the father in Sound of Music. Is the
Okay.
Duke of Wellington. It's an amazing movie. It's really good. It's not for everybody, so you're not going to love it if you're not into old history movies.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But all that being said, with like Frederick the Great, about whom most of Sleepy Plesso is about, with the Crusades, there was a lot there that was very interesting, and it was. It's not just something that I identify with personally, but at least something that is like fertile soil. Like, I need to learn more about this.
Mhm.
I need to learn more about this. So like, with The Last Emperor, I got this book that's called. So with The Last Emperor, it started with this book,
Okay.
The First Crusade and the Idea of Crusading, and that was very interesting. So that just like totally wetted my whistle, and I got this book, The First Crusade,
Okay.
and then I got this book, God's War, and I didn't read all of this book because that's monumental, but I read a good number of big chunks of it.
Sure.
But anyway, so it's like, when I find something that just, I'm like, I need to know more about this.
Yeah.
Then music is my opportunity to learn more about it, and to satisfy myself. So yeah, I'm like with The Last Emperor. Yeah. there's some itch deep within me that needs to get scratched, and I consider music like my personal therapy because
Sure.
um, with At the Expense of Humanity, that gave me an unprecedented opportunity to work out things that had afflicted me uh, in a safe space. And, um, there were a lot of things that I had swept under the rug for a lot of years that I
Mhm.
didn't want to confront, that I didn't want to deal with. And that's why even today, like when I read through the lyrics on At the Expense of Humanity, or I
Yeah.
listen to the songs, there are times where I get choked up. Um, and so yeah, I think the the exploration is a big part of the joy of
Yeah.
the process.
Well, that's one thing I think is really cool about metal music in particular. I mean, I think other art forms can do this too, but I think metal really does it very well in terms of writing songs that maybe are tied to, personal life experiences, good or bad. Because, a lot of pop music's a little bit like light and it's like everything is great and I'm in love, blah, blah, blah. But, the metal tends to go like sometimes like, no, life isn't always great. Sometimes it stinks and sometimes it's hard. But I think metal bands too, you mentioned the history angle. I mean, obviously, when I first got into Maiden, it's like, well, these guys are writing about history with all these battles and all these, storylines of Alexander the Great and all these things, Ace is High. I mean, all these songs are military songs. And you have bands like Sabaton kind of doing that in this day and age. But I think, yeah, the metal bands really are good at writing lyrics about battles or history or, life experiences, things like that. I think other music sometimes is just on the surface and just fluffy or whatever.
Yeah, I like to have a balanced and varied musical diet. So I like superficial uh, songs. It's fun. I like candy. I like cheeseburgers. Not every meal can be filet mignon. Sometimes you want to go out and just have a carefree meal.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I think there's a place for every kind of expression. But I'll be damned if I don't really, really latch on to the metal
Yeah.
way in particular.
So far you've had how many albums with Judicator? 6 albums or 7?
Concord, which releases on March 28th, will be our 7th
7. Okay.
full-length album.
So you've had that, and then I know you've done some other things. You mentioned them earlier, but you've done Dire Peril, Dysphoria, Principium, Shadowseer, some other projects. But is there one you're most proud of so far?
If I had to run with the word proud, I would say Judicator. Judicator is my baby. Um, Judicator was for the longest time Alicia and
Mm-hmm.
our baby. And she left the band in 2020, and there was the question posed: do we even continue?
Yeah.
Do we just end the band? Alicia said that would be silly. That together we had built something that was greater than the sum of its parts, or whatever the expression is. So yeah, we ultimately decided to continue Judicator, even though it would undoubtedly be different. So, as far as I'm concerned, whatever I do in the future, Judicator will be there. I'm
Yeah.
never going to stop Judicator. Judicator will be there until I die.
Awesome.
We'll see how things go. And I only say this because there's another band that I am in called Beholder. It's a doom metal band. And the reception so far, we've only released one single, and the reception has been very good. And I've heard little whispers of potential things in the future. And so I don't know what's going to happen. Is Beholder going to be lightning in a bottle, and then that's going to be the thing that John Yelland is really known for, Beholder, and that's the thing that now Beholder is performing here and touring here. I don't know. I'm not getting my expectations up, but no matter what good or bad happens in life,
Mhm.
Judicator will live.
Nice. Do you have a favorite album so far with Judicator? I mean, I assume it's probably the new one getting ready to come out just because you just finished it, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I have a favorite album. Every album or era has great meaning to me. Of course, At the Expense of Humanity means a great deal to me. But The Majesty of Decay is an album that I'm very proud of because shit really hit the fan. And that Judicator at the time was a ship that very easily could have sunk, but through sheer blood-curdling determination, I made sure that Judicator did not die, that we did the album, and that we did our damnedest. I don't normally say like I or me, but looking back on it, like I worked my dick off, and that album did very well. And so maybe it is The Majesty of Decay, just because I'm a little obstinate right now.
Sure.
I'm a little bit like, you know what? Yeah, you did it. Yeah.
Is there a favorite song that you like to play live? It goes over well when you do play it live.
In terms of songs that go over well when we do play them live, King of Rome, the title track from our first album, that's it, baby. That's Judicator in a song. In terms of songs, yeah. But in terms of songs that I like to play live or want to play live, I will say that at Epic Fest we are performing a good number of songs from the new album, and it's just so fun. I'm really, really into the new album, and I think Sawtooth is. Have you heard the new album?
Yeah, I gave it a quick listen.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
Well, so the chorus of Sawtooth, like, we're gonna play it live for the first time at Epic Fest, but that chorus, like, I had a moment from a recent rehearsal where everybody was lined up at the front of the stage, the garage, and it was the chorus, and all of us were singing the chorus together. And that made me think, like, okay, if other people like this song as much as I do, then we're gonna have a hoot playing it live. Then there's the opener of the album. We're going to be performing "Call Us Out of Slumber." Oh, that song is just I love that song a lot. We are not playing Blood Meridian live, but that is a song everybody in the band is very interested to try out. Some songs you think it should work out live, and then it just kind of doesn't. And it's not the song's fault. The song works brilliantly in your headphones, but live it just doesn't hit. So case in point, at Mile High Power Fest last year, we played "I Am the Void" from a recent EP we did. Okay. And I greatly loved playing it live, but it just brought down the energy. It's a bit too introspective. And so I don't think we're going to play it live again unless it somehow becomes a fan favorite or something like that.
I was going to ask you, you touched on this when you talked about practicing in the garage. So do your current band members, are they all guys that live in Salt Lake or live close by?
Yeah. So in 2020, Alicia left the band, and there was still myself, Balmore, lead guitar, Jordan Elsess on drums, and John Dolan, aka Big Boss, on bass. That was the band. After The Majesty of Decay, long story short, Jordan Elsess and Balmore Lemus left the band. And so it was just me and Big Boss. Right. Oh no, the sky is falling. It's the end of the world. It's, oh my gosh, Judicator's over. Maybe it's actually an opportunity. Maybe it's actually an opportunity to not only make sure that all members from now on are in Utah instead of, Big Boss now is in California, and that's fine. I'll never kick him out of the band for being an out-of-state person. But if he ever does leave the band or get himself kicked out, God forbid, we would replace him with somebody from Utah. Balmore's from California. Jordan Elsess is from Arizona. So anyway, we made a very conscious effort to rebuild the band in Utah so that we can have rehearsals in person. And I treated it as a very important turning point, because up until that point, I feel like Judicator kind of had a revolving door of musicians. It was Alicia and I standing firm.
Yeah.
But everybody else kind of was, maybe expendable is too harsh of a word, but you know, it wouldn't be the end of the world if it was somebody else on the guitar or the drums or the bass. So I made a very conscious effort, like rebuilding the band, big opportunity. And so I mentioned Dysphoria earlier. I needed people who were reliable, who I knew, who were stable. And so I got Chad Anderson and Dayton Anderson. They're not related.
Okay.
Their last name is a coincidence, but I got both of them, who are in Dysphoria with me, to join the band. And that's great, because I've known them for over 10 years. I have a lot of experience working with them. I know them. I trust them. Yeah, and then Mike Lofgreen on drums. I've known him. He's most well known for his work in Advent Horizon, a rock band.
Okay.
I've known him for a lot of years. Yeah, I feel very good about the current lineup. I think it will last for a long time. We are very much aligned in mindset and goals and like philosophy between like work and play, you know, like band life.
Sure.
So, you know, if we play 2 festivals in a year and that's it, and we do other stuff to keep ourselves busy, like recording or whatever, that's fine. We're in it for the long haul, and I love the lineup we have now.
So, out of the places you guys have played in your existence of Judicator, has there been a favorite venue or festival or a favorite gig that stands out?
I will say I love the people and spirit of Oregon. But some of the better live experiences I have with Judicator have been in Arizona. I will never forget. I don't know if it was our first performance. I can't remember. I can't remember what the performance was exactly, but we were in a pretty darn small venue. And I think I had like a camo vest on with a rose pinned to my chest. And man, that was a nasty show. That was a good show. It was, I don't know if it was 30, 40, 50 people, but the venue was small and it felt like a stadium. And that was just, I was happier than a bug in a rug. That was a great show. I won't forget that show. Yeah, Arizona's hot, baby.
So you've been involved in the metal community now for quite a few years. So I personally think the metal community is unique in terms of its fans and the rabidness of its fans for the music. So what do you think kind of sets the metal community apart or makes it unique?
I feel like metal fans, they have the benefits of being comprised mostly of outsiders, I feel like. And I feel like they have a tendency to be fixated, like to really be fans. So, cause yeah, like I never hear, I mean, there's Swifties go crazy.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I feel like there's so much culture and, there's almost like a mythos behind so much metal and metal history. Like there are like demigods or whatever. Like you speak of Ronnie James Dio in like a hallowed voice.
Yeah.
Bruce Dickinson, Rob Halford, these icons, these legends. And I don't know. It's because I think like I love CCR and I love the Beatles and I love Boston and Journey and some of these bands we've talked about. But I don't feel like there's like a classic rock community. But there's always, as far as I can tell, there's always been like a really intimate and engaged and informed metal community. So yeah, I don't know where things will go in the future. I have speculations, but yeah, I think the metal community will live on for a long while. I think absolutely. And I've noticed there's sort of a handing down of the torch, like an intergenerational sacrament, if you will, of if I had a nickel for every time I went to like a Maiden show or an Amon Amarth show or something, and I saw Daddy and his two little girls with him,
Hmm.
or like a husband and his wife or something, like this is something that it's enjoyable to pass on and experience and enjoy with your kids. I mean, even for me, like you mentioned battle jackets. I have my own battle jacket, and Harrison, my son, when he saw that one time, he was like, "Whoa, what is that?" And so and now it's like, okay, we got to get you a battle jacket. And
Yeah,
what bands do you like? My son likes Halloween.
that's cool.
He loves Walls of Jericho
Oh wow.
out of all albums. That's the one he likes. So yeah, it's you don't really see that with I don't see that with a lot of other genres of music or bands, I guess. It's always metal, I guess.
Yeah. Obviously, you play in a metal band, but you're a fan as well. Are there some newer bands that you've discovered recently, or bands that you think are kind of kick a butt out there right now?
Um I've said this before, but I think the newest band that I've become like a fan of would be Necrogoblicon.
Okay.
I know right now they're probably not like super new. Um, yeah, I enjoy keeping my eye out for new talent, and I'm kicking myself in the butt right now because this might be a good opportunity to shine a light on them. But there's a new band from Salt Lake that is very much like sci-fi prog. Anyway,
Okay.
I really wish that I could think of their name. I
Yeah.
was really into them, but yeah, Necrogoblicon.
It's funny you say them because of all bands. I actually watched one of their videos one day, which was hilarious. It's the one where the goblin guy's like going to his day job in the office, and so I thought it was very creative. That's for sure.
Yeah, they are kind of an inspiration for me in terms of music videos because their music videos are just so much fun.
Yeah.
And I very much am a big fan of music videos, and I feel like I don't want to get into names because I do not like being a negative Nancy, and you never know who you're going to rub shoulders with and work with in the future. But I will say there are a lot of music videos out there that look nice, but there's not much there, and it's not enough to have a music video that looks nice. And look, I'm not saying all of my music videos are perfect, but I like to think that there's a very earnest charm.
Mhm.
I'm very proud of the music videos that I've been a part of, and we give it 10 out of 10.
Now, do you guys, when it comes to the videos, do you shoot those yourselves, or you actually work with like a video company, or you got friends that help you shoot them, or how do you go about it?
Well, so it helps that I got my bachelor's degree in TV and film production,
Okay.
so I have some contacts. Our King of Rome video was done in a studio on my college campus. Um, Let There Be Light, we took a video crew down to Arizona to film that. Um, and the music videos we've done recently for like Mandy, The High Priestess, Concord, and Miracle of Life have all been done with a friend of mine named Cade Writing, and he works for Enigma 3 Studio. And I've been very fortunate to have him as a friend
Yeah.
because he wants to do it. He wants to do it, and the value that we've gotten out of that friendship is something I could hardly put a dollar sign on, even though you could, and it would be a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but yeah, so we're very fortunate. There's nothing I can say there except make friends with people who do stuff that you like, and maybe you'll get some deals.
Yeah. Truer words are never spoken. It's like you always have to have that friend that's the mechanic and the plumber and now the video guy.
Yeah,
Really.
yeah.
We've talked a lot about your band and different bands, but any guilty pleasure bands, like somebody be really surprised to learn that you like, I don't know, some K-pop band or something. So
I don't have guilty pleasures, okay? I wear it on my sleeve. So I adore Charles Bradley. He's one of my favorites ever. I love Charles Bradley. I love David Bowie. I like The Used. Maybe that one is a bit of a surprise. I love Johnny Cash. I'm in love with that man. Who else would be a little off the beaten path? I love classic rock.
Mm-hmm.
There have been a lot of songs that my wife has shown me that she really likes that I don't know what they're called. I don't know the name of the song. Songs are the artists, but we've shared really special moments with them. And so there's a lot of songs that you would never expect a manly man such as myself to really love and have a special place in his heart.
Yeah.
But when it's like itching on a photograph.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, but yeah, there's a lot of those kind of sentimental, corny, poppy songs that I actually love because they have a sentimental place in my heart. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I got on that one, I guess.
So do you have any hobbies or interests outside of the band? Any other things that you're really into besides obviously history and reading and things like that? But
yeah, history. I really like to read when I can. That's one thing I miss about college is just the ability to read and read and read and read. I have so many books, and I don't have enough time these days. Big hobby. There are hobbies I wish I could do more of. Unfortunately, not unfortunately, that was a bad way to say it. My family's number one. So it's always a joy hanging out with my wife and kid. Yeah, a hobby right now is Pokemon Go.
Well, there you go.
And I say that because, like I said, my kid is really into Pokemon. So we're like, hey, I think he would enjoy Pokemon Go. So I downloaded it again.
Yeah.
And now he loves going out poke hunting. So we go to the park and he catches Pokemon on my phone. And yeah, so I think in terms of hobbies, it's like, yeah, I like watching movies and reading, but going out and doing stuff with the wife and kid is where it's at, I guess.
No, that's awesome. So I'm going to give you a chance now, since I know you have a new album getting set to drop like any day now. You said you're pretty much sold out of pre-orders, but time to promote the new album. Tell us a little bit about that and, when it's coming out, etc.
All right, listen here, everybody. We have on March 28th a new album called Concord dropping. This album is epic. It's brisk. It's sweet. It's punchy. It's about the Wild West and the American West in general in some parts. We have a song about 3:10 to Yuma, the movie. We have a song about Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. We have a song about Bass Reeves. We have a song about the massacre at Wounded Knee. There's a whole bunch of stuff on there to wet your whistle in terms of Western material. So get your cowboy hats on, get your big old stogie cigars, and pre-order our album. And when that baby drops, I expect you all to put them on and light them up and have a good time with Concord.
Well, John, I want to thank you very much for doing this. It's been a lot of fun. Fun getting to know you a little better and just chat about music and what it means in our lives and what makes you tick. It's always fun to find those facts out.
Yeah, thanks for humoring me and letting me rant and go down memory lane. This was enjoyable and interesting, and it was a good time. I enjoyed chatting with you, Wade.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you. If you don't mind hanging, I'm going to stop the recording. If you want to hang for a second, we'll kind of wrap some things up. But thanks to you, the viewer, for watching, and thank you, John, for being here. And we will see you on the next episode of Metal Roots.
We're gonna